Something happened here. It's now or never. 'Cause something happened here.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Artemis Radio, and I am Wendy from Artemis.
Hi everyone, it's Dr. June.
And we are doing, this is our fourth episode now, Dr. June? Yeah. We are talking about CBD and stress and anxiety today. In our first two episodes, we talked about what is CBD and all of our systems that basically play with it. And then on the second episode, we talked about dosing, method of delivery. So just in case if you missed that, but we'll touch up on that too in this episode as well. And a third episode, which is actually one of my favorites, we talked about Dr. June and her experience and what brought her here too. So anyway, so we're going to continue today with stress and anxiety. And at the shop, Dr. June, that's actually one of the things that people come in the most. It's actually, I would say stress and anxiety is one of the top 3 concerns that people have.
I bet.
So what exactly is happening to our brain when we're stressed or when we experience anxiety?
So there are 2 portions of our nervous system. There's a parasympathetic portion of our nervous system and the sympathetic portion of our nervous system. The parasympathetic helps us digest food, helps us sleep and relax when we have sex. That's the parasympathetic part. The sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight response. It helps us get ready for a deadline or that 9 a.m. meeting. It gets our adrenaline rushing. Because of the world we live in now, we all tend to live in a sympathetic mode. We are always on a fight or flight response. We have our phones, things are moving very, very quickly,
Right.
and our bodies really don't know how to balance. Our nervous system there just is no equilibrium. There's no balance. So that's why we're always feeling stressed and we're always feeling anxious.
Wow. So is that our bodies and that's what's happening to our brain as well?
Yeah, it's actually the whole body. So if it happens in our brain, we feel it physiologically, right? Our heart starts to race. We start to sweat. We have trouble sleeping. We have a little bit of insomnia, which makes us more stressed in the morning, or we try and caffeinate, or we try to do things artificially to stay awake. So all of that plays into high blood pressure, diseases, diabetes, chronic pain. All that results from actually stress and anxiety.
Okay, so I have a question for you then. Do you find, when I was in school, they were saying that stress is a very Western ailment, right? Do you find it now? There's more studies saying that in Eastern cultures, like Japan and Asia, that is a concern now too?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially now that work cultures have changed,
Right.
especially with the internet bringing the world smaller and closer together, and we're all so interconnected. Things are moving fast-paced in both work life, social life. The stress, I think, is both an Eastern and Western thing now.
Yeah, I was reading a study about, it was actually in Japan. They did a sample of, I think, 10,000 participants, and over 41% reported that they experienced sleep and a lack of quality sleep due to a chronic feeling of stress throughout their day. And then they're, like you said, they're unable to get up the next morning to do like over and over and over again. And that's something that I think they're trying to figure out a way to, alleviate or help,
Well, that's the thing with stress is it starts off small, but when it starts to accumulate, then small things will get to you. I mean, it could be simple thing as your partner saying, well, what'd you like to eat? Right? Or
Colin, are you listening? I'm sorry.
right? Or the phone ringing, and then you're thinking about 10 different things that you have to do. So those small things become big things.
That is such an interesting point. I think a lot of people, we just live with stress. So then we just go, that's just the way it is. And we don't realize that if we backtrack and unthread it, that it is the small things that become big things later. So in that sense, how would just the element of CBD interact with our bodies in regards to stress?
Sure. So what CBD does is it works on the GABA receptors in the brain. And what GABA is, it tells our body, it's okay, you're safe, you can relax, you can, sort of shut down a little bit. And it basically coaxes the body to make more GABA. And that, in a sense, relaxes the body or helps it self-regulate. So when there's times of stress, you don't have to overreact, right? Or when there's times of no stress, you don't become like very depressed and sort of go under and shut down. So that GABA that GABA correlation, that GABA balance is what CBD actually helps with.
Wow. Okay, so if that's the case, if someone was managing their stress, would you recommend them doing like microdosing with CBD on like a daily basis, or are they going to wait for an onset of like, like a deadline and then they'll take the CBD?
Well, there's different ways to do it. Of course, if you have a chronic, stressful, and anxiety-ridden life, it's nice to have this preventative approach. So a low-dose CBD is great, but also adding exercise, of course, and self-care. When you exercise, we talked about the endocannabinoid system, our own body's natural cannabis system. When you exercise, that natural cannabis molecule, anandamide, actually increases. So you're self-regulating as well. So that's why exercise is good. A low-dose CBD preventative is good. And then you can always use sort of like a rescue CBD, a little bit of a higher dose or something that acts faster for those emergencies, for those times of panic. When a lot of patients come in, they said, I'm on Xanax or I'm on a benzo, which is very, very addicting, very addicting. It's very hard to wean patients off of that. It's nice to look at CBD as an alternative or first-line treatment.
So on that line, if someone was on something like that, would you recommend them wean, and they want to wean off, just say, would you recommend them just cut it off and wean cold turkey, or is it half of what their medication is plus CBD and then they slowly get off?
Excellent question. It's always better to have them talk to their doctor,
Right.
Obviously. You can take both. Generally, you can take it together safely and then try and wean off slowly. But it's not a one-size-fits-all for everyone. One patient might be very different depending on their history, depending on their stress, anxiety, panic, or other symptoms. So it is better to talk to the doctor first.
We actually had, it was a very sweet lady who came into our store, and she's like, I heard about CBD and it helps me, or it's supposed to help with stress. And so we talked to her a little bit about that. And then she told us, she said that it was just the other day, she was at work and she felt so stressed out that she felt like her body froze in place and she felt like her neck was cramping up. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a terrible way to live, in that sense that's kind of built it up to that point. So as we were talking, she's like, what would you recommend and everything? And then we always, I think tinctures are basically a nice way of just establishing a baseline, dealing with stress and anxiety as well. And then as she was talking about her, her back cramping up, Colin was talking to me. He's like, would you recommend like a topical or something? And so I was talking about that with her, and I said, I think the source of the cramping is not the muscle spasm, it's the nervous system responding to stress, right? So as like she's like typing, she's like cramping up. So having a topical application will only last you for, and it's very it doesn't enter the bloodstream, so it's very surface level. So we recommended, and we asked her if she was open to vaping, having a pen, because a pen is such a good way for an acute stress relief, right? So we talked to her kind of about that, and also like with a pen too. Like I find a pen as almost a little mini meditation period for you, because you're breathing in and then you're breathing out. So that's a moment that you have, that's for yourself.